Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, subscribe to Just Minding My Business on our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Mick Heyman, CFA and founder of Heyman Investment Counseling, has a 40-year career in wealth management, helping individuals and institutions of all sizes to build and preserve wealth with his stress-free method for mellowing your money. Wow, Mick. Welcome to the show. I like that term, mellowing.
Thank you so much, Ida. I'm thrilled to be here. And yeah, mellowing is usually not the term people associate with money. So I thought it was kind of an interesting twist.
Yes, and that's what you want, that mellow attitude, because there's so much emotions around money, and you really don't learn that until you get older and talking to people like yourself that point that out. So can you please talk a little bit about the emotions around money?
Sure. And it's kind of ironic that when you think about managing your money and taking care of your money, the rules are not that complicated. We know we shouldn't spend more than we earn. We know that we should be patient. We should, not let little things interfere with our long-term objectives. We can go, you got a couple of them, but pretty much the rules aren't that complicated until something happens. And all of a sudden we're thrown into a lurch. And what I've found over, my life and my career is that that's how our life goes too, isn't it? That,
Mhm.
that we seem to be cruising along and then something happens and we get panicked.
Yes, we do.
So what I've tried to do over time and is to encourage people to set that long-term objective. And when bad things happen, realize that we're not alone. This has happened time and time again. And throughout history, really one of the first lessons I learned was going back and reading headlines all the way back into the 20s and 30s. And guess what? Those people, our great grandparents and grandparents, they thought the world was coming to an end every other week also. And somehow the world survived. So if we can gain that perspective, that even though it seems like this is the worst that's ever happened, it's going to keep going. Money keeps going, and so do our lives. And so that's the perspective I'm trying to put out there for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's talk a little bit about long-term investing. I know for a fact a rainy day is going to come. It always does. And long-term investing is important. So, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what I found is that I have a client who's a teacher, and never made a lot of money in her life, but she grew up. Literally, she had the upbringing where she was rolling quarters with her parents, with her mom, and
Wow.
had that feeling, that culture of saving. Now, I didn't have that. It took me a long time to figure that out. But but I encourage people at whatever age. Actually, I had another client who always used to say, "Pay yourself first." So we always think of paying the rent and paying the groceries and paying the electric bill, but remember your long-term savings is another part of things. And so whether you're starting out or you're in the middle of things, it's always important to have that as a perspective. And of course, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have enough in an emergency fund, and because things happen in life where you need cash and you really don't want to be selling stocks to help out with the car bill or something. But once you have that emergency fund set up, buy a fund or some stocks, some long-term stocks, and let them go and don't pay attention too much. I found, actually, I had one client early on where she had such gains in the account, you couldn't sell much. And so we just kind of let that go. And at the end of the year, we'd compare who did the best. The accounts where we were in and out all the time, or Eloise that we just kind of, we nicknamed her the philosophy of benign neglect. We just kind of let it go. Guess who won? Eloise every time. That the long-term patience that we can hang on, that's an important concept when you're thinking of the long-term investing.
Yes, yes, indeed. And what is FOMO and how do you avoid it?
Well, of course it stands for fear of missing out. And these
Oh,
days, these days with social media, it's it's always right in front of your face.
okay.
Somebody is always making a ton of money on whether it's cryptocurrency or the meme stocks. GameStop was a big winner a year ago, actually just took off again. And we see all these people on YouTube making a fortune, and we want some of that. It's just natural that
Mhm.
because that's who you see. You see the people who are shouting out the loudest because they happen to have done well. But what you don't see are the millions of people that have tried this or tried that, and they're struggling. So
Yes.
when I found, me too, when I got in the business, I wanted to be one of the famous traders making, millions of dollars trading. What I learned is that's not my forte. My forte was being patient and being a long-term investment and an advisor. And so learn what we're good at and try to accept that that's our mark in life. And try not to be so overly influenced by the people who are out there shouting the loudest. And sometimes it's social media, sometimes it's our own friends.
Hmm.
Somebody got involved in Bitcoin and they're bragging about that at the party, and the next thing you know, you're diving in right at the top. And we've all done that, but having the perspective of my goals are this, my talent is this, and focusing on that, that's really the key. Both, again, I found both in my life and in my investments.
Yes, yes. So your company, tell us a little bit about your company.
So I have a little boutique firm that I'm a one-man shop. So I've, accumulated some individuals along the way. I used to work for a big institutional firm, and we managed money for union plans and corporate plans and universities and such. And that was a lot of fun. But I found over time that the more fun I have is sitting down with an individual and working on their long-term plan and having those goals and then managing towards those goals. And so that's what my company is about now. And it's funny that some of the people I've worked with have come in from different experiences. I have one client he's now worked with me for 10 years, but he had a terrible experience with other advisors who were always buying at the wrong time and trading in
Oh,
and out. He'd call me up now and he says, I know what you're going to say. I know you're going to say, don't worry, be patient, but I need to hear it one more time. So a lot of my effort is on that, but because I have a small firm, I thought the better way to reach more people is to write this book, which ironically you termed it, it's Mellow Your Money. And so I did that during the pandemic. And again, that was my kind of attempt to reach more people and to encourage people to try to drown out the noise. And if you set your long-term goals, you really don't have to watch these news stations all the time and worry about the latest inflation report.
yes, yes. And that was going to be my next question. How the media, they always give doom and gloom. We already know that. That's their specialty. When you watch the news, the last part of the news is something good. That lasts about what? Couple minutes,
At
maybe.
most. Right, right.
So, how do you drown out that negative forecast from media?
So there are two things I think to be aware of is first of all, don't get caught up into this minutia. And I tend to not watch the news. You hear that from whether it's financial or otherwise. I do read about it because I can skim. I can say this is nonsense. This isn't important. And so by reading it, I kind of go through things faster. And I also don't get caught up with these panels of people who are trying to predict the unpredictable. Everybody's saying, well, the economy is going to do this, the Fed's going to do that. No one knows these things. They're all guessing, they're all trying to get clicks. And of course, it's been going on forever. And so, ironically, one of my best or / worst predictions happened randomly at some economist luncheon. And the guy asked everyone to write down a surprise. So he's going through the note cards and he yells at, who wrote down war? Like an idiot had to have written down war. Well, I was, of course, the idiot. I finally raised my hand and he goes, what in the world were you thinking of? And I go, I don't know. You asked for a surprise. I don't know what the surprise would have been. Well, he makes fun of me for a little while longer. And the sad part of the whole story was 3 months later, 9/11 occurs. So, of course, did I sell my stocks? No, but surprises happen in our lives.
Yes.
And in the market. And so to the degree that we don't watch and we don't care about that minutia, that's one of the most important things. And the second thing is when big things do happen, which they do, of course, the pandemic happened. During the pandemic, the market dropped like a stone for 3 weeks. The headlines were horrible. And if you'd read those headlines, you would have kept selling all the way through. Well, guess what? After those 3 weeks, the market headed up for the next 3 years. And so in the worst of times, and when the headlines are the worst, it's when things tend to turn around, and vice versa. When you think all is clear, guess what? At some point, we're gonna hit a drop. And so be aware of the headlines are not going to guide you. Your long-term plan will guide you. Let's say you decide to have 50% in stocks. That's where your comfort level is. But because the market's gone up and you have a couple of great stocks, all of a sudden you find yourself with 60%. That's the time to just cut back to your comfort level. Be more of a mechanic as opposed to a predictor. And you can do that, or working with an advisor, you can do that. But the guy on TV or gal who's talking about this or that, they don't care about your portfolio. No. They're not talking to you. They're talking, they're trying to make a name for themselves. And they're trying hard. I don't mean to demean anybody, but it is not directed towards what we're trying to do with our own account. And so be able to differentiate that.
Yes, yes. Wow. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
Well, there are two things I would say is I'm encouraging everybody to read the book if they can. Okay. And then in that way, I'm happy to dialogue with anybody. In other words, I would rather talk to people, and I'm at the point in my career where I'm not really looking for new clients. I'm looking for people I can help. And I'm happy to do that through email or however people want to communicate with me. And really, like I said, most of the time, it's more about setting up your objectives and working with a counselor or working with some funds and not being overly complicated about things. And so I'm happy to talk to anybody about that kind of way of setting things up.
Okay. And how can people email you?
Mick@mellowyourmoney.com.
All righty now. So on that note, let's talk about the book. How did you come up with that title? I just love it.
Well, I wanted to differentiate the book from, most of the investment books out there are more like textbooks. And my book is more about stories. It's more about my stories and how I've learned, and not just in the market, but in my life. Relationships I had with my dad or my mom or my grandpa. And what did they teach me about my life? And what did they teach me about the market? Because I've found in my life, it's not instructions that have taught me the most, it's stories, it's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to bring those experiences to life, hopefully in a fun way, not just in in a way that could get people to laugh a little bit, identify with me. And the other thing I wanted to do is to try to show how all of us can learn from our own stories.
Mm-hmm.
So often we look back at different things with regret or sadness. And I'm not saying there aren't, we all go through those periods of time where we do get hit with sadness and different things, but each of those moments can be a teaching moment. And so I was trying to help people along with that too.
Yes, absolutely. So, how do people get the book?
On Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and I threw a whole thing out there, whether it's Kindle or hardback or soft or paperback or even I even tried the audiobook version because I thought that would be kind of fun, and that was as much of a challenge as anything. Reading nonstop is not an easy thing.
No, it's not.
And so I even tried that. If you can stand my voice, that's another option for you.
Yes, and the title of the book again, so that people can find it.
It's Mellow Your Money, How to Surf the Market and Build Wealth Without Stressing Yourself Out.
I love it because who wants stress? Nobody wants stress, for sure. So, give us a little snippet of something that you wrote in the book that you believe people can use right now.
I think the biggest snippet right now, because of course we're in the middle of this political thing going on, and everybody is up in arms about different things. And it's worth it. I'm telling you, if you can just even Google headlines back in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s,
Hmm.
and look back and say, what were those people worried about? And they too thought this has never happened before. Now, of course, things never happen exactly the same again, and we are in a different situation, but that feeling we have of being out of control and feeling like this is the end, and how can we survive it if this happens or that happens? Get a feeling for that's just human nature. I
Yes.
read a great book. It's called Sapiens. And the guy, one thing that stuck in my mind is he was talking about caveman times. And he said, even in the caveman times, there was some snippy little teenager yelling at his parents.
Mhm.
These things haven't changed. And so if people could get a feeling that life life is like this and get comfortable with it and don't feel like it's the end of the world, I think that would help calm down, not just in investing, but in all of our lives.
Yes, absolutely. The longer you live, the more you're gonna see that you've never seen.
Exactly. And that emotion that we have though is not new to us.
No.
Our ancestors and their ancestors, and that's just part of being human.
Yes. New day, same stuff.
Exactly.
For sure. And you talked a little bit about the politics and, and why shouldn't, we all know we shouldn't worry about it. We don't have no control over it anyhow. Um, but a lot of people do.
And I'm not telling you not to be active or be and support your cause with vigor and such. That's just, that it's who you are and what you want to do. What I'm saying is don't let that impact your investments,
Hmm.
because in general, I've never seen someone say because this party got elected, the market's going to do X, Y, Z. They want to, and depending on whether the market's up, whoever's in power will, of course, take credit for it. You know, yeah.
Yes.
But I've seen either party win a certain election, and whoever didn't like that party would say, "Oh my gosh, I better sell or I better buy or something." And so that's what I'm differentiating, not to minimize whatever political um, uh, party that you're supporting or person. That's important to each individual, and I'm not diminishing that. But separate that from your investment portfolio.
Hmm. Yeah. So basically, what I'm hearing is focus on what you do,
Exactly.
pretty much. Mind your business.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mind your business and stay focused to what you're doing and not worry about what the rest of the world is doing.
Exactly. And don't overplay the fact that somebody will say, well, if this guy gets elected, the market's gonna crash. They've been saying that for every election and every side, and that is a political slogan. And so it's right. Mind your business. If you're going to support this one way or the other, that's great. That's all about what you want to do. But separate that from your long-term investment plan.
Yes, exactly. Because, I learned that a long time ago. It's always something happening, something's always going to the left. When you have a day and ain't nothing happen, count your blessings.
That's absolutely right. And whatever somebody does in politics and in legislation, that might have a 5-year time. That may not impact the economy for 5 years. So it's really the next person who's going to end up getting either blamed or credit.
True,
And
true,
so it's a funny thing with how we want everything right now, but that's not how the world works either.
and never has. Everything takes time. I remember, seeing a lot of get rich quick schemes going on, and there's no such thing as that.
And by the time we know about whatever it is that someone did get rich on, I mean, I thankfully didn't buy Beanie Babies back in the 90s, but holy cow, there were plenty of people betting their college education on it. So,
Yeah.
and there'll always be the next one. That will never stop either.
Oh yeah, always something new and something going on to say, buy me. That's one of the things I had to teach my son like right away because kids, they look at TV and they see commercials and immediately get, I want that, I want that. And I'm like, you know what? That is designed to make you spend your money, whether you need it or not. The first thing you do you need it?
Do you need it? And I mean, I remember buying my son these trains, and whatever train he'd get would come with the little marketing thing. He'd play with the train for like a minute, and then he'd be looking at that seat going, I want this one next. It's like, well,
Yes.
can you enjoy the little train for like 5 minutes?
Yes. And babies show you because when you at Christmas, what are they more interested in? The box, the
Yes,
wrapping paper.
exactly.
They could care less about the actual gift. You have to actually look.
That's right. You have to get on the floor and show them exactly.
Yes, indeed. Well, Mick, this has been amazing. Again, how do people get the book, the name of the book, and where they can get it? And if they want to talk to you about it, how do they do that?
So best way is to email me at mick@mellowyourmoney.com, and I'm happy to correspond with anybody. So if you have a question or thought or anything, I enjoy the correspondence. And then the title of the book, Mellow Your Money, How to Surf the Market and Build Wealth Without Stressing Yourself Out. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and any of those kind of sites. And be great. And again, if you read the book and have a question, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yes, yes, because I just like just this conversation. It's so mellow. We not stressing, we chilling, we laughing. but we talking good stuff.
Exactly. And I that tends to be me. My mom always said, though, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. So, some people like a little more excitement, but that's mellow as me. So that's
Yeah, I like mellow. So you will attract the people on the mellow side.
exactly.
So thank you so much, Mick, for taking time out of your day. I truly enjoyed this conversation. And audience, thank you for listening, tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.